Good morning, class from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I know I look probably much different than I did last semester. As some of you may have read from our other class, I had neck surgery this summer, so this is my fun little apparatus, and actually I have another one that's even bigger that I call my Spider-Man shield. So I've been doing some recovery this summer unexpectedly. And I'm sorry to be late in posting this video, but we had the death of my husband's grandfather this past weekend and went to northern Michigan for a funeral. So let me get to kind of my impressions of this first chapter and my view of recovery and deliverance. This first chapter reminded me a lot of the verse in Romans 7 that one of my friends calls the Dr. Seuss verse, and I'm going to read it here. Romans 7:19 and 20, that says, "For I do not do the good that I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. For if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but the sin living in me that does it." The first chapter really reminded me of that verse, and I'll go on to kind of talk about what the author describes. The author throughout the chapter shares some of her spiritual journey, which seems to be quite a journey of discovering really that desire for God, and really going through really a lot of different religions and some of the different even sounds like some of the psychological and other really extreme things that she was exposed to. I believe all of us have a desire for God, and she was saying that all of us have a desire for God, a hole that only God can fill, and that repression is something, kind of that turning away from this desire, and addiction is one of those ways that we can do this. She gives an example on page 2 of the chapter that repression is the desire for love, because repressed desire for love, because love makes us vulnerable to hurt. She compares attachment to addiction, in a sense describing how we can become bonded or enslaved to specific behaviors, things, or people. They become our idols. Dr. May, the author, uses detachment to describe the freedom from addiction, and even the rekindling of that desire for God. It's almost a liberation, she calls it. I really struggled with this section in chapter 1 on grace. I understood, I don't know if I just called her a she, anyway, but he really, I understood that he was trying to say that not all religions are the same, but I still felt like at times he was not distinguishing that Christianity, that the grace of Christianity was really different from, or God's grace was different than these other religions. He describes, God's grace, part of God's grace being God's love and healing and illumination and reconciliation. But I believe, it's one of the foundational pieces of Christianity that really sets Christianity apart from all the other religions. So I had some struggles with the author's writing there. And some of the other, it was good to hear some of the other pieces of the other religions, but I don't know, I just kind of struggled with some of that. The author also discussed how addiction often brings us to our knees, into the realization that we are weak and that God is strong, and that we need a loving and strong God, which I think is very true. Sometimes those struggles are what really allow us to come forth and see our need for, see our really deep need for God, and but that there is hope in Jesus Christ. Seeing recovery and deliverance as a process of spiritual formation, I really agree that they can be a process of spiritual formation. I struggle a little bit more with deliverance, but I'm interested in kind of seeing how that pieces more into the spiritual formation. The process of recovery, if in a Christian-like program like Celebrate Recovery, I think it can really be interwoven into spiritual formation, because addiction is a sin, and both are really processing toward being more like Christ, and learning what, is behind some of the reasons why we look for what may, either have been in our past, or what some of the generational sin issues are, what's really why we're looking for other things to fill that hole. Deliverance in the Old Testament was seen more as God plucking out a people from the hands of enemies, or God delivering them from something. In the New Testament, it has to do more with casting out demons, or more of a healing. This is not to say that God can't deliver someone from something like alcohol addiction, but in my experience, I've seen deliverance primarily in more of a spiritual or health matter. I think alcohol and drug addiction really require more of a recovery process, and most of those folks who experience that will be in recovery and need to really be part of a support group for the rest of their lives, because it's really something they struggle with forever. So I'm sorry this video is over time, and I will look forward to the rest of the class with all of you, and great to I'm sure see your faces in your other videos. So thanks. Have a great morning. Bye.